But as all of us know, a major life event, the pandemic, a once in a lifetime for hopefully most, has occurred. So that is the reason why I had submitted my written comment. And I just wanted to emphasize that since I've had the opportunity to attend all of our economic development meetings and all of our zoning meetings this past year, I can provide that unique insight into how the city might improve its ability to realize the vision in our general plan. Mixed use has been brought up, I do agree, but there is one component, FARs, that have not. The Planning Commission is in discussion of creating a new downtown zone. And I think that's wonderful. I think it's a new, fresh approach to make our commercial zones more efficient. But along with that, the discussion of FARs, Florida area ratios, should also be included in that in order to accommodate flexibility. That's not happening. It's because it's outside the scope of Plan Hermosa. And now there's a list being created for these items to be brought to council at a later date. So it's not just about mixed use, it's about having these conversations while we're currently talking about our zoning, while we're talking about our design and district standards. That's important because one of our biggest roadblocks could be the linear rules and mindset in our process. And it doesn't really encourage creative thinking and problem solving in a timely manner. So it would be helpful if there was specific direction to staff and our consultants who are working on this to take advantage of some of these synergies that are in our economic development strategies adopted this year. We do have a property owners group. Because of the Economic Development Advisory Group, we do have a property owners group that is willing to meet with the city. This should happen now because these are the key stakeholders who could provide input into whether we're going in the right direction or whether we're not. So those are the things that I think really need to be impressed upon. In regards to the new Excella permit program, thank you, Ray, for bringing that up. I want to know if it's going to include timely feedback surveys to improve the process and if the public will have access to this information. And I also noted in the mobility element that Pier Avenue was missing from the Hermosa Avenue lane reconfiguration. I just want to clarify that it is included in that. I'm assuming that it is. And I just want to reiterate again, if we could provide information on the quantity and location of the new bike racks. I don't know if they're encouraged all throughout our downtown. So if we could provide Laura, feedback on that, that would be helpful. Again, I look forward to more discussions on how we can work together in a timely manner so we can improve our feedback. Thank you.
Matt McCool, you're up, and your 3 minutes will begin once you unmute yourself.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Hello, Mayor Toy, City Council staff, Matt McCool. I'll begin first with the mixed use. As you know, I live in a mixed use building on Pier Avenue for a long time. I'm a big advocate of mixed use as long as it's in a commercial area. Mayor Toy, I did get to see you the other day and say hello. But as far as the other elements of the general plan, was brought up as far as the lane reconfiguration on Pier Avenue and Hermosa Ave. You can take this to the bank. I'm campaigning heavy on it. People are loving it. It's going back. There's going to be 2 lanes in each direction. It's on my candidate statement. Don't even think it's not going to happen, but it will be fun. And I'm looking forward to the debates. And the last and final issue I had is when we went through all this, the term carbon neutrality. It was used as the biggest hot phrase to ever hit the city of Hermosa Beach. Carbon neutrality, carbon neutrality. It's all we talked about for 2 years after oil, carbon neutrality. We have a municipal goal on the book still, a municipal goal of carbon neutrality. For some reason, that term has just disappeared. It doesn't exist anymore. So I'm assuming, since I know all of you are all very closely knit in the same clique, that somehow a memo went out, said we're no longer going to be using the term carbon neutrality. The posting up on the wall in City Hall chambers, City Council chambers was removed. Somehow this term carbon neutrality just disappeared. Don't know how, don't know why, but just happened, just gone, just like that. And it was an issue because in 2017, I ran as an anti-carbon neutral candidate, and none of the candidates that were elected would even talk about carbon neutrality. So I just want to know what's going on. What happened? Who put out this memo that all of a sudden we changed the terminology? But on the books, we still have a carbon neutrality goal, municipal carbon neutrality goal. Seems just a little odd how this just kind of disappeared. It's not mentioned in this update at all. What happened? I know why, and we'll be discussing that at the city council debates. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have John Davis. John, your 3 minutes will begin after you unmute yourself.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
I've got a little spotty internet, so if you hear that, I apologize. Yeah, I just want to say I absolutely heard Suja and council comments on updating Plan Hermosa and reflecting, to maybe some of the more modern changes that we've gone through. I trust you and greatly appreciate that you gave these comments. So more than anything, I just want to thank you for addressing it. And as Laura said, it's my understanding, at least, that Martha Miller is brought on to streamline and codify Plan Hermosa. And there are certain things, such as Florida air ratio, where, to my surprise, it actually seems like Planning Commission, the stakeholders are kind of in agreement that maybe we need to look at those. But it doesn't seem like it's reflected in Martha Miller's work because it's outside the scope of what she was given. So at the last Planning Commission meeting, Commissioner Rice had recommended that Commission start keeping a list of ideas and suggested changes, which I think is a great idea. These are changes that would extend beyond Plan Hermosa. And so I think it's a great idea. And I just want to ask that you request you get that list as soon as you can when it's appropriate. And, just kind of keep items in that list in your conversation. So that was my only comment. I really appreciate, all the hard work everybody's done, staff, Martha Miller. You guys have certainly discussed it a lot, and Planning Commission has discussed it. So I appreciate everybody's effort on it. And I just want to kind of point that out. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
And it looks like no other virtual hands are raised at this time.
Thank you. Just a friendly reminder, mouse down to the bottom of your screen, raise a virtual hand. Or you can dial *9 if you're joining us by telephone. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. I can't believe they didn't want to plan a watch party here. Any council member comments, deliberation, or a motion?
I'm going to make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'll move that we receive and file the General Plan 2021 Annual Progress Report and direct staff to submit General Plan 2021 Annual Progress Report to the Department of Housing and Community Development and the Governor's Office of Planning and Research.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem with the second. Councilwoman Armato with the initial motion. Any last comments? Yes, Councilman Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple quick items. First, in response to the comment about carbon neutrality, I forget what section of the general plan it is. I think it's sustainability and conservation. Carbon reduction goals for both the community and the city are set out. Those are the governing goals for the city. They supersede the prior resolution regarding carbon neutrality, as I understand it. So that's the answer to that question. With respect to sustainability, we have those goals for carbon reduction to meet. They are important. They're part of the mitigation measures under the EIR. We are to track them and make sure that we're on schedule to meet them at basically 5-year increments. And to that end, we have an important opportunity coming up at our next meeting in considering whether to join the Clean Power Alliance that our neighbors to the north and south, Manhattan Beach and Redondo Beach, are already members of. That's going to advance the ball a long way towards meeting our carbon reduction goals as a community. So that's on our tentative future agenda items for next meeting, and that will be an important conversation as we talk about meeting the goals in Plan Hermosa. I wanted to just mention a couple things, Madam City Manager. I can bring these up during tentative future agenda items or other matters at our next meeting. I think it may be time for us to review the fines for violations of our single-use plastics ordinance. Last update we had basically fairly good compliance as I understood it, but a handful of recalcitrant folks in the city. We need to make sure that the fines are sufficient to be a deterrent to folks who might violate that ordinance, because as we all know, ridding our community of single-use plastics is important not only for our quality of life, but also the appeal of the community to visitors. And the last thing I'll mention, and this is as much a question as it is a comment, Madam City Manager, there's been discussion both internally over time in the city as well as externally in the region about parking requirements and how reviewing them to make sure that they continue to meet the way people get around is, I think, one aspect of the conversation that Councilmember Campbell was talking about. I don't know if it plays out within the discussion of the housing element or zoning or where it goes, but I just want to let my fellow council members know that I'm open to that discussion. I think there's good reasons being articulated for why cities should review their parking requirements. There are a number of reasons to do so, all of which can be, fleshed out during the course of the discussion. So to the extent that that fits anywhere in the discussion or would be carved out as a separate discussion, it may be something that we want to begin to consider for either the midterm, short term, wherever it fits on our agenda and our planning. So thank you, Madam City Manager. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments? Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Armato,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Councilmember Massey,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson,
Aye.
Mayor DeToy.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, we have item B, approval of a professional services agreement between the City of Hermosa Beach and Veronica Tam and Associates, Inc. for preparation of an update of the housing element of Plan Hermosa General Plan.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. We have Director Naughton for this staff report.
Thank you. Good evening again, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council. Before I get started, I'd like to address Councilmember Massey's last comment regarding parking. And for the council's benefit as well as the community, next Thursday night, the Planning Commission will be holding a special meeting, and the focus of that meeting will be the parking standards in the zoning code. So if you have any interest in being part of that discussion, we would welcome your participation and comments. So following along the lines of our general plan discussion, the city is currently engaged in the 6th cycle update of the 2021 to 2029 housing element. This process began with the initial public meeting to introduce the housing element in December of 2020. The initial draft of the document was submitted to the California Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, on August 5th of 2021, and comments were received from HCD on October 4th, prior to the adoption of the draft housing element. At its December 21, 2021 meeting, City Council reviewed and adopted that 6th cycle draft housing element, which was subsequently submitted to HCD the following day. A substantial comment letter was provided to the city by HCD on March 23rd of 2022, outlining deficiencies that needed to be addressed in the draft housing element. As of early July, the city's consultant who is preparing the housing element update had made no progress on addressing the comments provided by HCD in its March letter, many of which were carryover comments from the initial October 4th letter. Following discussions with staff on how best to proceed, the city's consultant unexpectedly terminated his services in assisting the city in its update to the housing element and staff began reaching out to consulting firms to ascertain availability to assist the city in completing the 6th cycle housing element update process. This all closely followed the passage of Senate Bill 197, which was signed into law on June 30th of this year, which changed the rezoning deadlines for jurisdictions with statutory housing element deadlines in 2021, giving a 3-year extension for enacting necessary zoning action if the adopted housing element is certified by HCD by October 15th of 2022. Because HCD has a statutory review timeline of 60 days for review of a submittal by jurisdiction, housing elements in the SCAG region had to be submitted to HCD by August 15th to be eligible to meet the certification deadline of October 15th, and thus be eligible for the 3-year rezoning extension. Because the city's consultant had made no progress on addressing the substantial comments provided to the city in March, staff had no draft housing element to submit to HCD by August 15th. As a result of missing the statutory deadlines for certification by HCD within 1 year of the 2021 housing element due date, jurisdictions, including the city of Hermosa Beach, cannot be found in compliance with housing element law until all necessary rezones are complete. Staff has communicated to HCD staff both its challenges with the previous consultant unexpectedly terminating his services from assisting the city with its updates, and in our dedication in making a good faith effort to make substantial progress towards compliance with state housing element law. Included as attachment 1, council will find a proposal provided by Veronica Tam and Associates Incorporated, or VTA. VTA is substantial experience in preparing housing elements, including having prepared 11 of the 21 housing elements in the SCAG region that have received certification by HCD. This is one more than is noted in the staff report because I had not yet learned the happy news that our neighbor, the city of Redondo Beach, received certification of its housing element from HCD on September 1st. So big congratulations to Redondo Beach. VTA did prepare the housing element for Redondo Beach as well as several other jurisdictions in the South Bay, and is uniquely knowledgeable about how to address the challenges and opportunities that exist in order for the city to achieve certification from HCD. It is imperative that the city endeavors to achieve compliance with housing element law through preparation of a housing element that addresses all comments outlined in HCD's review letter provided in March 2022, in addition to implementing any necessary rezonings. Again, staff has communicated to HCD the city's commitment to achieving compliance and its efforts in moving forward with a new consulting team that can assist the city in addressing and resolving the deficiencies in the existing draft housing element with anticipated readoption of a complying housing element in May of 2023. This agreement has a total not to exceed amount of $43,880, inclusive of $5,000 in contingency to account for any additional meetings, if needed, that are not outlined in the proposed scope of work. Funding to support expenditures under this agreement would be taken from 2 sources. The housing element update, where $135,000 is budgeted for fiscal year 2022 through 2023, and the SB2 grant fund, where $25,455 is budgeted for this fiscal year. And both accounts are in the Community Development Department. With that, staff recommends City Council approve a professional services agreement with Veronica Tam and Associates Incorporated to provide services to prepare an update of the 2021 through 2029 housing element of Plan Hermosa General Plan, and authorize the city manager to execute and the city clerk to attest the agreement subject to approval of the city attorney. That concludes my report, and I'm available to answer any questions council may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Naughton. I'll look to my left, see if there's any questions. Seeing none, look to my right. Seeing no questions, Madam City Clerk, could you queue up public comment, please?
Seeing nobody in the chambers, we'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. And at this time, I do not see any virtual hands raised.
like to comment on this item, please mouse down to the bottom of your screen, raise your virtual hand. If you're calling in via telephone, dial *9 to raise your virtual hand. Seeing no hands raised, I'll go ahead and close public comment and bring back to my colleagues for deliberation or a motion. Mayor Pro Tem.
Just a comment. So we are 0 for 2, if I understand this correctly, then with regard to our housing element approval. We've submitted twice. First time we had the our consultant, we received that back. We made some changes, submitted it again, and we've received recent comments. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Correct. Go ahead. Sorry.
So are we comfortable? I guess I just want to make sure I'm clear as to what did we get wrong on the second submission, and are we confident we're going to get it address their concerns on the third admission?
Jeannie?
Or submission, excuse me.
Sure. So a lot of the comments from the first comment letter were carried over and not addressed in the resubmittal. So a lot of those comments from that first letter received in October of 2021 are carried over in the most recent letter from March of 2022. The most substantial portion of the comments has to do with the affirmatively furthering fair housing section. That is a new requirement in this cycle. And that really accounts for a substantial portion of the 13 pages of comments that we received from HCD. I am confident that this new consulting team understands the data that needs to go into the AFFH and the other components that need to be addressed in the comment letter from HCD. I'm confident in this firm's track record in obtaining certification for almost a majority of the current jurisdictions in the SCAG region that have obtained certification from HCD. And I have even more confidence that they've obtained certification for a neighboring jurisdiction. So they have unique knowledge of the challenges that we face in Hermosa Beach and in the surrounding area. They're also handling the housing element preparation for several cities in the South Bay region. So they really have a pulse on what's happening in the region, and they have a close working relationship with HCD.
I appreciate that explanation, Director Naughton. Thank you.
Any last comments or a motion?
I'm happy to make a motion, Mr. Mayor. And I'm glad to see that staff was able to turn around and secure a consultant. This is an important issue that we need to get on top of, and I know staff understands that. I'll move that we approve a professional services agreement with Veronica Tam and Associates, Inc. to provide services to prepare an update of the 2021-2029 housing element of Plan Hermosa General Plan and authorize the city manager to execute and the city clerk to attest the agreement subject to approval by the city attorney.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilwoman Armato, a second from Councilwoman Campbell. Any last comments? Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Armato.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Massey.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
Aye.
Mayor Dutoy.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, we have item C, public noticing requirements and practices for posting of city council agendas.
And we will have Deputy City Manager Angela Crespi present that item.
Welcome,
Thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Madam City Manager, and good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council. At your August 9th, 2022 regular meeting, City Council directed staff to place on the next regular session agenda an informational item regarding the scheduling of posting of City Council agendas. The staff report prepared for you this evening summarizes both the legal public noticing requirements as well as the operational practices for posting of City Council agendas. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council agenda must be posted at least 72 hours in advance of a regularly scheduled meeting, including a brief general description of each item. The agenda must specify the time and location of the meeting, be physically posted in a location that is freely accessible to members of the public, and be electronically posted on the local agency website. To illustrate the Brown Act requirements as it applies to your regularly Tuesday City Council meeting, staff must post the agenda no later than 6:00 p.m. on the Saturday prior to the meeting date to meet the 72-hour requirement. It's the city's current practice to post the City Council agenda on the Thursday evening prior to the meeting date, which equates to 120 hours in advance of your scheduled meeting. To make this happen, staff reports from city departments must be submitted to our city clerk at least 1 week prior to the date of the agenda publication. In addition to posting the required brief general description of each item so that the public is notified of the business to be transacted or discussed at the meeting, the City of Hermosa Beach provides a written staff report carefully outlining the issue to come before City Council. All of our City Council staff reports are written to include background information, an analysis or discussion, an evaluation of general plan consistency, and financial impacts. To ensure accuracy and completeness, the staff reports are routed for the department director review, legal review, and financial review prior to being reviewed and approved by the city manager's office. Not including the time for the original author to prepare the staff report and its supplemental material, the approval routing process typically takes 1 full week to complete. During the week of staff report routing and approval, heavy coordination and communication takes place between the submitting department and the reviewers. Once all staff reports are completed and approved, the city clerk proceeds with an agenda preparation and posting, which takes approximately 4 hours. In times of competing priorities, some staff reports do not make it through the review process in time for agenda posting. If that happens, it may be moved to a future City Council agenda date. The necessary rearranging of an agenda and tentative future agenda schedule also requires careful coordination between our city clerk, city manager's office, and the various departments. In any given month, City Council meetings typically take place on the second and fourth weeks. So on non-meeting weeks, staff is actively working to prepare the following City Council agenda. To illustrate, after the Tuesday City Council meeting, staff is required to submit the reports for the following City Council meeting by that Thursday. So for your next meeting on September 27th, staff reports are due from the departments this Thursday, the 15th. Alternately, the first and third weeks of the month contain meetings of the boards and commissions, including Planning Commission, Parks and Recreation and Community Resources Commission, Civil Service Board, and Public Works Commission. The process to prepare the staff reports and post the agendas for those Brown Act bodies is similar to that of City Council. The current agenda posting timelines and cycles spread the workload out across the month and avoid overlapping of public hearing noticing, staff report preparation, and agenda posting activities for the various Brown Act bodies. The distribution of workload allows for time in the work week to focus on daily tasks, customer service, project outcomes, and other deliverables. The current timelines also allow for the timely advancement of business items from boards and commissions to the City Council. A time-sensitive item heard by the Planning Commission on the Tuesday opposite of City Council meeting can be agendized and prepared for the next City Council meeting. So that concludes our informational report this evening, and staff is available for any questions.
Looking to my colleagues for any questions. Yes, Councilwoman Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one.
I am personally not aware of, I don't think, more than one or two that I'm aware of historically how many requests we get for earlier agendas than we normally have, which is going on double the legal requirement. Is there, or I don't know if my colleagues can recall any, just curious if there was more feedback there. Thank you.
City Manager.
Councilmember Campbell, from a request from members of the community, I've probably received 2 in the last 4 years, 2 separate ones.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions, Mayor Pro Tem?
No, just I appreciate the report. I appreciate the city's efforts in exceeding the 72-hour legal requirement. And I appreciate receiving our agenda on the 6th of September for today's meeting. So, you know, understand it's a heavy lift. You are constantly treading water with the various meetings that the staff has to juggle and the pressing time. I mean, there's little to no time to take a break because you start one and you finish it and you're preparing right away for the next one. So your efforts are certainly appreciated by me, and I won't speak for the rest of the council, but I'm sure them as well. And to the extent that we can improve upon the already expert, your extraordinary efforts already in exceeding the 72 hours, I think would be appreciated by many. So thank you again for doing what you all do. And you know, I think it's a testament to your leadership and you know, the staff's dedication in beating the legal requirement as significantly as you do. So thank you.
I don't really have a question, but just comment for, you know, me personally this week. It's been a crazy, eventful week. And so having it out early allowed me 2 extra days to look at it before some family stuff happened. So definitely appreciate it. The earlier we can get the information out helps. And I know that you are following the legal requirement, but it's not a question. So any other questions for staff? Madam City Clerk.
At this time, we'll open up public comment, and seeing nobody in the council chambers, we'll open up virtual public comment. And at this time, I do not see any virtual hands raised.
Just a reminder, if you're joining us on Zoom, mouse down on the bottom of your screen, raise virtual hand. By telephone, dial *9. Seeing no, oh, there's one hand.
We have Laura Pena. Laura, your 3 minutes will begin once you're unmuted.
Hi, my name is Laura Pena. I want to thank the mayor and council members and Angela for providing all that feedback. Yes, thank you so much for producing the agenda. I think it was on Wednesday. Incredibly helpful, incredibly useful, because there was a lot of information to read. My one piece of feedback in regards to the agenda, or this has more to do with general public participation comments. Currently, for our various city meetings, commissions, and board meetings, there are different and somewhat confusing deadlines for submissions for supplemental written communication. Like instance for city council, the deadline for supplemental materials is 2 p.m. on the day of the meeting. For the planning commission, the deadline for supplemental materials is 12 p.m. on the day of the meeting. For park and recs, supplemental materials, the deadline is 3, as well as the civil service board. It's all written comments. The deadline is 3. I can't even find anything for public works. So if there is a way we could streamline this, because I'm constantly looking at what's the meeting, what's the deadline to submit supplemental comments, that would be really helpful. But overall, I think it's improving in a positive note. And I just want to thank everybody for allowing me to provide feedback.
Thank you.
And I do not see any other virtual hands raised.
All right, I'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to my colleagues for any other comment deliberation. I never realized that in the past about the different deadlines for commissions. Is that something we can look at? Just an hour off.
So we have been looking at all of that really closely, and if I can invite our city clerk to just weigh in on that.
In regards to the public, the written communication provided and accepted by all of the commissions, we are working to streamline all of the commissions with city council, and we are working on an internal commission handbook to ensure that all the commissions are working in the same fashion, uploading their agendas the same way, so that the public knows exactly how to participate when agendas are posted, and everything looks and feels the same way. So we are working on that, and that's something that we're hoping to implement very soon with all of the internal staff.
And
awesome.
Mr. Mayor, by the same way, we're using the council's agenda format as well as how council operates as the template for our commissions as well. And so really aligning all of that to be the same so that there aren't different expectations.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I wasn't really touching this item, so great explanation, and thank you for your work behind the scenes. Any other comments, deliberation, or a motion? Yes, Councilmember Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam City Manager, am I correct that 2 p.m. or noon deadline, whatever it is, for supplemental e-comments is simply for folks who want a comment to be published on the electronic agenda for that meeting?
Correct.
Okay. So I think it's just worth pointing out for the public that you can always email citycouncil@hermosabeach.gov or whatever the commission is up to the time of the meeting. And there's a good chance it's going to reach the council or commission. I know, I typically check my email before the meeting. There's a certain point in time where we have to pack everything up and head over to City Hall or log on or whatever. And so emails that come in during the course of the meeting may not get read until after the meeting because we're focused on prepping and being in the meeting and conducting all the business. But folks should know that those deadlines are simply if you want your comment to be posted on the agenda for public consumption. There are other ways to reach the council directly that may have your input received by the council after that deadline. With respect to the item before us and the request for direction, the Brown Act, in the way I perceive it, is one of the fundamental bedrock laws in the state of California, along with the Coastal Act and some others that are as famous. I firmly believe in it, and I am very satisfied that the efforts of the city to harmonize when we send out our agendas, when we publish our agendas, with the work week of our city staff, which means ultimately that typically our agendas are published on the Thursday prior to a Tuesday meeting for the city council, for example, which exceeds, as the deputy city manager pointed out, what the Brown Act requires, is something I'm very comfortable with in terms of making sure that our community knows exactly what decisions are going to be before us and has an opportunity to submit any input that they have, whether in writing or at the meeting itself. So for what that's worth, I certainly appreciate the effort that the staff goes through to prepare for our meetings and to get those agendas out on Thursday night. So I would say keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I would like to provide a clarifying comment. I know Laura Pena did make a comment about public comment closing at 2 p.m. We've only closed at 2 p.m. once when we had our special meeting that started around 4 for the interviews for the Civil Service Board. Otherwise, we typically close public comment 2 hours before the earliest start time. So closed session starts at 5 p.m. So we typically close at 3 p.m. But written communication that members of the community would like to appear in the agenda packet is submitted 1 week in advance of the council meeting date by noon. However, we do accept email comments, e-comments up until 3 p.m. So they can provide any type of comment before then, after the written communication deadline.
Thank you for that clarification, Madam City Clerk.
Just also, we're continually improving, and so City Clerk Maravilla is changing the written comment period to align with the rest of e-comment. So we'll make an e-comment link, and then that too will be open up to 2 hours, until 2 hours before the meeting. And so then that 1 week, we actually don't know how that started, but it doesn't matter. We're aligning it to the better protocol.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments or motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll go for a motion. I move the council receive this report and take note of the discussion this evening going forward and recommendations therein.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other comments?
For the public's clarification process, we will, moving forward, be opening e-comments on all agenda items, including general public comment, and it will be closing at 3 p.m. So any general public comment posted through the e-comment portal will be downloaded in the fashion that we currently do that, and then attached to the report number.
Wonderful. Thank you. Seeing other comments, Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember Armato.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Massey.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Jackson.
Aye.
Mayor DeToy.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Bring us to future agenda items. Anyone have any comments on future agenda items? Or like to make a motion for another one?
I don't think we make a motion.
No questions or comments? All right. That will bring us to adjournment. This meeting is adjourned at 9:07 p.m. Lucky for the watch party. Due to the observance of Rosh Hashanah from September 25th through September 27th, the regular city council meeting of Tuesday, September 27th has been rescheduled to a special meeting on Wednesday, September 28th at 5 p.m. for closed session, followed by open session at 6 p.m. Thank you and good night.
Right. Holy cow.